Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central, an unusual Breakfast Central here on a beautiful Tuesday. Sadly, my co-pilots and first officer are unavoidably absent, so I'll be flying solo for a bit until Tolu Adelere Balogun joins me as we navigate at today's show. It's Breakfast Central. You know what happens on Breakfast Central. We'll bring you the best analysis, the news stories, and we take deep dives into issues that matter to you all. I am Benga Aborowa. Welcome to the program. As it's no longer news, 2 days ago, Nigeria lost his former president, President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed on in a London clinic on Sunday afternoon, and reactions are still pouring in. So many Nigerians have been expressing their condolences and grieving, and the federal government yesterday announced plans for a state funeral for the former head of state, a befitting state funeral. We've also been taking reactions from members of the diplomatic community, former president, his fellow ex-president's club in Africa have been reacting to the news of his sad passing. It's drawn tributes across all political spectrum, with many remembering him as a man of integrity and a dogged anti-corruption crusader. But let's take some of the reactions that we have on the life and legacy of former President Muhammadu Buhari.
Who served as Nigeria's president from 2015 to 2023, the immediate predecessor of President Bola Tinubu has passed on. In a statement signed by his former senior special assistant on publicity, the former president passed away after a brief illness in London. Born on December 17, 1942, in Daura, Katsina State, Buhari hailed from a modest Islamic background in northwest Nigeria. He trained at the Nigerian Military Training College and later received further military education in the United Kingdom and United States. As a young officer, he fought in the Nigerian Civil War and steadily rose through the ranks of the military. In 1983, Buhari emerged as Nigeria's military head of state, following a coup that ousted the civilian government of President Shagari. His regime was noted for its anti-corruption drive and the launch of the war against indiscipline. However, he was deposed in 1985 by General Ibrahim Babangida and subsequently spent several years in detention. After his release, Buhari exited the military and took up roles in public service before venturing into politics. He ran unsuccessfully for the presidency 3 times before his historic victory in 2015, when he defeated incumbent President Goodluck Jonathan, a victory making him the first opposition candidate to win a presidential election in Nigeria. During his 2-term presidency, Buhari focused on anti-corruption, economic reform, and national security. While initially praised for his integrity, his administration faced criticism over economic downturns, rising unemployment, growing insecurity, and mass protest, most notably the EndSARS protest. Despite these challenges, his government recorded landmark reforms, including the passage of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, and the Electoral Amendment Act 2022. Other notable programs include the Arcos Boros Program, National Social Investment Program, among others. In 2023, Buhari handed over power to President Bola Tinubu and formally retired from active public life. Since then, he has made only a handful of public appearances. Though the nature of his illness was not disclosed, Buhari had been receiving medical treatment in London in the days leading up to his death on Sunday, July 13, 2025. As expected, his passing has triggered a wave of condolences from across Nigeria, particularly from government officials and political leaders across party lines. To many, Muhammadu Buhari was a symbol of simplicity and discipline, a towering figure in northern politics, and a staunch anti-corruption advocate. In Abuja for News Central, Sakir Ibrahim.
That's a report from News Central correspondent Sagir Ibrahim on the life and times of late former President Muhammadu Buhari. You could see that it was indeed a colossus when it comes to Nigerian history. He did participate in the Nigerian Civil War, started his career as a military officer, and then became military head of state in the 1980s before reforming and becoming a two-term democratic president. But like we said, his passing has elicited quite a number of reactions, both within Nigeria and internationally. Let's take a few reactions and tributes to the late President Muhammadu Buhari.
As has already been announced,
from soldier to statesman, Muhammadu Buhari's influence on Nigeria spanned decades. His death at 82 in London after a prolonged illness has stirred mixed emotions nationwide.
Personally, I'm indifferent because although a lot of people, when he was president, several things were messed up under him, but there's a normal saying that you don't wish bad against the dead. So I think I wished him well because in other areas, he actually tried in other areas, even though economy, security and others were messed up under his regime.
He's a human being, and when he was in power, he had so many advisors and he had so many things on his table. Well, he did his best and he survived 8 years. I would say that, well, everybody has to die. Even if he did well, they'll still blame him. But whatever it is, he's late now.
President Bola Tinubu praised him as a patriot and a symbol of integrity who championed unity and fought corruption. But for some Nigerians, memories of economic struggles and slow governance under his watch remain fresh.
The man has tried his own best. You understand me now? There's no how you can please the world. But I know the man has laid his own impact on the country.
Honestly, we just have to sympathize because we've actually lost an icon in our nation. Despite the fact that there are some ups and downs, every human being have their own flaws. We are not perfect.
Buhari ruled Nigeria first as a military leader from 1983 to 1985 and later as a two-term elected president from 2015 to 2023. He gained respect for battling Boko Haram and pushing anti-corruption reforms, yet drew criticism for sluggish policy action and rising hardship during his tenure.
The time of COVID-19, the man doesn't make us proud and doesn't make us happy. He tried to frustrate us and bring everybody down to this country. So the little word I can say about that man, may he so rest in peace, Sha.
Buhari is a president that everybody was like, oh, we hope him to do well. But he still did, though. He tried. He managed the country during this time. At least there was a low record of insecurity, let's just say, to compare to now.
Look at the power system, the health. Look at the water. What has he done? Really focus on in this country? Nothing. So why are we remembering him for what?
While tributes pour in, reactions remain divided. A reminder of a legacy that is as complex as Nigeria's own journey. In Lagos, for News Central, Sewesi Anyon.
They have it, mixed reactions from ordinary Nigerians reacting to the passing of the former president, Muhammadu Buhari. Tolu Adelere Balogun is here to join me on Breakfast Central. A warm welcome to you, and it's good to have you on board.
Thank you so much, Benga. Now, this has been an interesting few, I think, let's say about 48 hours thereabout since the announcement of former President Buhari's passing. And when you listen to what people on the streets of Lagos were saying, and as our correspondent was finishing that report, she also said that his legacy is as complex as the journey of Nigeria, and that's just really what it is. Even when we have this conversation on Jasiri, it just has been an absolute mixed bag. There's so many things you can point to in his presidency. At some points that you say positives, and there's just probably as many that you can point to that defined his legacy in a negative way, NSARS being one that comes to the top of the mind. And when you look at it, this is a man who wanted to be president of Nigeria, who actively campaigned to be president of Nigeria. And then he got it on the fourth attempt. And so people often think that somebody who's trying so hard for something is fully prepared.
Oh, yes.
But when he entered, it didn't end up looking like that.
I remember the body language part, and people, you know, walking the fine lines, and then it took him so much, a long time to announce his cabinet, and when he finally did, it was a bit underwhelming. And people also spoke about his aloofness to national issues. You know, he hardly shuffled his cabinet. He will appoint you and just, he had this laissez-faire attitude towards governance. But he's done his bit, he's come, he's gone, and we're left to pick up the pieces, as they say. But it's interesting to note that amongst the political class, there's almost a uniformity in thoughts, and I guess they're just being politically correct.
I think it's thoughts and prayers. I think, yes, they're being politically correct in the long run in terms of all that's happening, but also it's going to be very rare for you to find a political leader, even almost anywhere in the world, who after another political leader dies, uses that opportunity to either grandstand or, you know, it's almost an unspoken rule. It's almost the situation you have now in the United States, where people are constantly calling on former President Biden, former President Obama, Hillary Clinton to speak. But it's almost an unspoken rule among high-ranking U.S. officials that once you're out of office, you let this person run their tenure and however it may be. And so there's just a lot of controversies. There are a lot of comments that former President Muhammadu Buhari made that, you know, that got people fired up. And so you saw the gentleman who was speaking who said, what are we remembering him for? And it's one of the things I say, we all experience people differently. So even as he was president of Nigeria, he was a father, he was a husband, he was a brother, he was president to some. His legacy from military rule carried over, and those individuals who are now seeing him as president struggled to see him as a democratic ruler. And even in his presidency, with some of the things he said and some of the things he did, people experienced the repercussions of those differently. So Nigerians have all experienced a different President Muhammadu Buhari. And as you said something, he's done his bit, but his bit is also some of the foundation for some of the things that we're experiencing within the Tinubu administration as well.
Absolutely. And by the way, it's interesting to note that today is a public holiday. Yesterday, the federal government declared today a public holiday as a mark of respect to honor the memory of former President Muhammadu Buhari. And yesterday also, the federal government declared that a 7-day mourning period. So flags will be flying at half-mast in the country for the next 7 days as a mark of respect. What do you make of that public holiday?
For a former president, I think that's okay to say, most likely. I think maybe if it was somebody else, because don't forget, this is probably very close because he is a Muslim, and we are expecting that there's some kind of state burial tomorrow. Let's not forget that a number of people have been brought together to be in charge of the committee that the president set up. And that's a lot of people. I don't know if you've seen that list, who are going to be on the committee to oversee the former president's burial arrangements, that is. So you have a number of people on that panel, that committee rather than, I think the one I'm going to is the National Assembly, which actually said that they're doing 7 days mourning for him, and there'll be no legislative activities for 7 days. Kano, his home state, did, I think, 1 day.
Katsina,
I beg your pardon. Katsina, his home state, did 1 day no public holiday in remembrance of him. 7 days of national mourning, flags flown at half-mast. Nothing with that, but that's 7 days of the National Assembly.
Exactly. He lived a full life. He passed at 82. I don't understand the rationale behind. It's one thing to honor and, you know, give respect a day or two, but I mean, we have so many issues bedeviling the country. So the National Assembly, I guess the members are just looking for an excuse.
And we already know that they don't sit like the whole 360-something days of the year. I think their legislative calendar is around about 180 days. So
and
taking 7 days into that, the holidays that we take and everything. So that's the only one.
Much. Yeah.
Yeah, so just for you guys, for the general public to know that the president has set up a committee to ensure a dignified and well-coordinated program for the state burial in collaboration with the Katsina state government and the family of the former president. Now, the committee is chaired by the secretary to the state, to the government of the Federation, Senator George Akume. Other members, let's see what the other members are. We have the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. We have the Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning. We have the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, the Minister of Works, Minister of Interior, Minister of the FCT, Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Minister of State and Social Welfare, Minister of Art, Culture and Creative Economy. We also have the National Security Advisor on that committee, the Special Advisor to the President on Policy and Coordination, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Political and Other Matters. Inspector General of Police is also sitting on that inter-ministerial committee. You have the Director General, Department of State Services, the Chief of Defense Staff will be on that committee as well. So you have about, I think, 16 thereabout people that have been listed, but in all, there will be about 25 members of the Federal Executive Council that are also proceeding to Katsina to participate in the full schedule of the burial rites and the remains for the third-day prayers in Daura on Wednesday. Let's take a look at the arrangements and what is going on.
25 members of the Federal Executive Council have been directed to proceed to Katsina immediately to participate in the full schedule of the burial arrangement and the third-day prayer of former President Muhammadu Buhari in Daura. We are told by the family that the third-day prayer will come up on Wednesday, 16th of July, 2025, in his hometown in Daura. You are aware that there was an earlier announcement that the Federal Executive Council meeting will hold on Tuesday, tomorrow, 15th July 2025. This has now been rescheduled for Friday, 18th July 2025. His Excellency President Bola Tinubu, as you also know, has already declared 7 days of national mourning, which commenced yesterday, Sunday, 20th July 2025. During this period, the national flag will fly at half-mast across the country. All state governments and the private sector are hereby urged to comply accordingly. In addition, the President has declared tomorrow, Tuesday, as public holiday.
There you have it, burial plans and announced by the federal government, the full schedule to start tomorrow in the hometown of the late president at Daura, Katsina State. As you heard, the president has directed 25 ministers of the Federal Executive Council to proceed to Katsina State with immediate effect, and the 5-day prayers will commence tomorrow. I guess the official state funeral service will begin tomorrow on Wednesday, the 16th of July, 2025.
And we've had a correspondent in Daura since the news broke late on Sunday, and we'll continue to give you updates today and all through the day. And of course, we will be live for the state burial. It has been a very interesting few days. Let's not also forget that as we are looking at his state burial, yesterday was the burial of the outrage of Ijebu-land, who was said to be a close friend of Buhari, and the announcement of his death came just a few hours after the announcement of Buhari's death as well. So that was held yesterday in Ijebu-Ode in Ogun State. We saw the former Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, was present.
Lagos State Governor.
Lagos State and his deputy, Sanwo-Olu, as well as Femi Hamzat. We also saw the former governor of Ogun State, Benga Daniel, as well as the current governor, Dapo Abiodun. And it was almost a mini state affair as well, given the number of people who were present. So
and the importance of the LGAs to his contribution to national development. And he was, I believe, the longest serving monarch.
About 65 years, passed away at 88. I'm picking at that, I'm not sure. But he was the longest serving Yoruba monarch, 65 years. So let's take a look at this.
As a young officer, he fought in the Nigerian civil war, but steadily rose through the ranks of the military.
Let's bring you our top stories that will be coming up today on Breakfast Central this morning. Burial plans for late ex-President Buhari. We did share that with you earlier in our wake-up conversations. Nigeria's non-operational refineries will be taking a deep dive into what's going on with the NNPC and the refineries. In 2025, Confab will be discussing the issues that will be tabled. We'll also be looking at the party ADC crisis. And of course, we bring you the newspaper front pages. Remember, you can call in and share your thoughts with us in that segment. This is Breakfast Central. Stay with us. The African Development Congress, African Democratic Congress, has decried the policies and programs of President Bola Tinubu's administration, saying they have rather brought untold hardship to Nigerians. The party made this known in its position in Jos, the Plateau state capital, just as it rejected the Hanatu Gagara-led leadership of the party in the state. News Central's Chizoba Anyanwe has more.
The publicity secretary of the ADC in Plateau State believes the party had been very active, though unknown to many, due to perceived silence in the state. The party frowns at the All Progressives Congress-led President Bola Tinubu's administration.
Since the inception of the current political dispensation in 1999, things seem to be getting worse day by day. Nigerians are now pushed to the wall due to the unpopular policies of this current government. Hence, the need for a credible political alternative in the country.
However, the party says Hanatu Gagara is no longer its state chairman.
I'm pleased to stand here before all of you, affirming my position as the state chairman of the African Democratic Congress, ADC. On the 13th of May, 2022, we had our congresses here in Plateau State to bring out all the ESCOs, and in so doing, we succeeded in bringing out a complete ESCO, which we have for Plateau State.
In a swift response, Hanatu Gagara insists she remains the chairman of the ADC in Plateau State.
As far as I'm concerned, I have been the chairman in this party for good 1 year now, and have been in the party for good 17 years. I already have the INEC, who has been the one that I have given my registration to, right from the national to the state INEC here. I have gone for verification about 5 times with INEC in Abuja. So for that reason, anybody who is coming from anywhere, I don't know that.
Despite the crisis within the party, a coalition of opposition figures, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Senate President David Mark, the 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, and former governors Nasir El-Rufai and Rauf Aregbesola, are seeking to use the ADC as a political platform to unseat President Bola Tinubu in the 2027 elections. In Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Anyoe.
It's time for us to delve into our first top story of the day. We'll talk in refineries, Nigerian refineries. The refineries, yes, those elusive state-owned refineries remain non-operational despite multiple promises and budget allocations. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC, confirmed this yet again. Last Thursday, the president of the Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, stated that the Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna refineries might never resume operations despite the $18 billion turnaround spent on turnaround maintenance just a day after the group chief executive officer of the NNPCL, Bayo Ojulari, echoed similar concerns in an interview with Bloomberg, stating that a strategic review of NNPCL's refinery operations was underway and that the sale is not out of the question.
And public reaction has been swift, fiery, and layered with frustration. Billions of naira sunk into turnaround maintenance over the years. Opposition leaders have tackled the Tinubu administration, demanding a thorough criminal investigation into the alleged corruption linked to the failed turnaround maintenance of the refineries. The big question remains, what happened to the revitalization plans? What's stopping these refineries from working? And should we proceed with an outright sale?
Now, joining us for this morning's discussion is investment banker and public affairs analyst, Dr. Nnaemeka Obiaraeri. A warm welcome to you, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central. Now, first of all, I would like you to start with giving an assessment of the petroleum sector under the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. He also doubled as petroleum minister. How would you like to remember his impact on the petroleum industry?
Tinubu is very fair-minded. He's very honest. That will not tell you of a truth that the oil and gas industry in Nigeria and the economy in general actually tanked 50 years back under the leadership of Muhammadu Buhari and the successive leaders at the NNPC. The only time we had a glimmer of light was between 2015 to January 2016. And if you look at those periods, you will see clearly that was the period when Kachukwu was the GMD of the NNPC. The first thing Kachukwu did when he became the GMD was to do an audit of a forensic audit of our actual petroleum consumption, the white petroleum products. You know, there was a time in this country when we were told we are consuming 55 million liters per day under the era of Desiani, and Nigerians cried foul. And of course, there was an investigation that was led by the National Assembly that revealed that our actual consumption was between 28 to 32 million liters a day. And of course, Kachukwu confirmed it, and that was the level until the bazaar started in 2016 under Mike Antibaru and Muhammadu Buhari. Firstly, our output was at a level of about 2.3 million barrels, crude and condensate, when Buhari took over on May 29, 2015. There was even a time in 2008, if you look at CBN record, 2010, if you look at CBN record of August to October 2010, there was even a time we did 2.8 million barrels, both crude and condensate a day. So Nigeria had never had it rough the way we had it under the last 8 years. Our output came down from a height of about 2.3 million barrels to even a time we were even getting below 1 million barrels a day. And the worst of it was under Melekari, when he even gleefully told us that GMD of NNPC that we are losing 1.9 million barrels of our, the $1.9 billion worth of our crude every month to thievery and inefficiencies. It was such atrocious level that every one of us were shocked when Tinubu retained him as GMD for over 2 years. And that was actually what delayed most of the much touted programs and policies of government in terms of removal of subsidy and the margin of the for multiple foreign exchange rates in the forex market. So it was an era of larceny, an era of corruption, an era of unhinged, unabated corruption and the looting. And the worst of it all was that we allegedly over $3 billion was borrowed by way of crude swap to fix those refineries. We won. For the last 18 years, we have been very, very consistent that those refineries can never be fixed under the kind of public sector corruption that we've experienced in Nigeria in the oil and gas industry. Obasanjo was a very wise man, so much that in 2007 he decided to privatize 60% of those refineries to the Blue Star Consortium led by Aliko Dangote, Femi Adesina, and some of the corporate czars. If that exercise had been allowed by Yar'Adua to thrive, we wouldn't be where we are today. $2 billion wasted under Buhari for turnaround maintenance program of those refineries. And it is being revealed recently now that most of those monies were African. But one of the worrisome things is that within all this revelation, why the likes of Nnaemeka and all of them at NNPC are not being harassed, arrested, and prosecuted the way the federal government is doing to Godwin Emefiele, who did not even commit 10% of the crime and last that happened at NNPC, is something that is very, very worrying. I can tell you, the root of the current Nigerian wars, the root of the problems we have today was what happened between 2015 and 2023. Okay. Cumulatively, over $630 billion estimated dollar inflows came into Nigeria by way of crude oil sales, exports, foreign direct remittance, diaspora remittances, and borrowings. What left Nigeria was about $462 billion. Net, we should have had at least net current balances in our reserve of about $180 billion. Those monies got frittered away. Until today, nothing has been done. Those who wreck this economy are walking free, while the current federal government is being telling Nigerians to just hold on and tighten their belts.
Okay, I want to pick up on something. You've listed about the amount of money that has come in through the sales of crude oil over the years, but I'm quite curious as to this sort of turnaround that we're hearing at this point in time. It started last week when we heard from Aliko Dangote that it's likely that the refineries will never be operational. Then we're hearing from NNPC as well that, oh, it's possible that is also the case. But I'm very curious as to what specific operational or structural failures have led NNPC to confirm that the refineries are not working. And where were these issues earlier? Let's not forget that we were told that there was a timeline of December 2024, when I believe it was the Port Harcourt refinery that was meant to kick off. Then that timeline was extended until there was just complete silence. So we've been given timelines before for the rehabilitation and turnaround of these refineries, but now there's an admission of failure, an admission of the possibility that they will never work. Where is this change coming from? This change in what is being said and what is being told to the Nigerian populace?
The truth is, under the current ownership of the NNPC and those refineries will not work. Those refineries will not work not because it is not repairable or it's not because it cannot be revamped. It cannot work because of the established culture of profanity, larceny, corruption, and abomination that currently goes on, not just in the oil and gas industry, the petroleum ministry, the NNPC, but at some of the commanding heights of our public sector. And it will shock you to know that the refineries are not even as old, are not even among the top 20, top 30 oldest refineries in the world. There are refineries all over the world. Some are even more than 100 years old, some more than 50 years old, that are still working and operating efficiently in other parts of the world, even in countries that do not have crude oil resources. NNPC is not working. The refineries are not working because we have refused to do the right thing. What are the right things that we're supposed to do? If you look backward, you will see the same way petrochemical plant LMA was not working until it was handed over to Indorama. Today, they've gone even above working to establish other trends. The same way, the Nigerian liquefied natural gas is working because it is 51% owned by the private sector and 49% owned by the federal government of Nigeria through the NNPC. And today it's no longer producing up to 100% capacity because NNPC has failed to supply it the natural resources gas that it requires. We know what to do, and what are those things that we need to do? we need to first of all unbundle the NNPC. And to unbundle the NNPC, we need to look at what the Brazilians did. They are not less corrupt than Nigerians. But they discovered that if you put in place the institutional framework, the transparency framework, the place will work. Sell down 70% of the federal government shareholding in the NNPC, 30% to 3 core investors, local players in the national oil and gas sector, 10%, preferably demand members. Then 40% should be sold to Nigerians in the pay, and then the whole thing listed on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and maybe dual listed on the London Stock Exchange, and then do an IPO of $20 billion. When you do this and turn the NNPC to become efficient as Petrobras, to become efficient at Nigerian liquefied natural gas, every other thing associated with NNPC and the refineries will work. Those refineries are better placed to be revamped. Kaduna is off spec and off site. We can turn it into a storage depot, because all the pipeline has been compromised. So they know what to do. We've asked them to do this right thing, and they've refused to. Anybody in NNPC or the federal government telling you they want to revamp it, it will never work. Ann-Kio was right in that regard. Ann-Kio was wrong in thinking that it will never work again. He should have even gone ahead to provide solutions on what we need to do. And it should not be sold to him or any other person who currently owns a refinery. I have said it here. We can sell these refineries to 31 investors in Nigeria with technical and deep pockets. And we have many of them. And I don't want to promote anybody here. 10%, 40%. See, if they do it this way, some of us Nigerians and those in diaspora, we subscribe. And if we do this, we will unlock nothing less than $40 billion into the federation accounts. And we will unbundle that sector to run efficiently in such a way that we will become more efficient than Petrobras. Look at Brazil. 15.7 billion barrels of crude reserve. Nigeria has 37 billion barrels, proven reserve, which can even be ramped up to $50 billion, 50 billion barrels. Petrobras is doing $171 billion turnover, 171 billion asset size, $121 billion turnover every year, $36 billion profits every year, 2.3 million barrels of crude production every day. Petrobras pays over $47 billion as royalties and pays $6 billion as dividends to the Brazilian government for just owning 28% of the shareholding in that place. Look, NNPC. To 2015, NNPC used to remit $3.5 billion to the CBN, which was the former governors used, despite the free trade, to maintain forex stability. Today, they're paying remit $1 billion. Nobody's asking questions. If Nigeria was to be a place where sanity is, where there are no corruption at the highest levels, by now, many people will have been in jail from that.
That brings me to my question, Dr. Obiaraeri. Yes. If I may come in here, Dr. Obiaraeri, you did mention that you don't see any hope in the NNPC as currently constituted. But Mr. President just did a management change recently, and as part of the top management, he appointed experienced industry players. And also on the part of corruption that you just mentioned, are we going to get any sort of accountability? Because these are payers' monies that has gone into the running of NNPC for this turnaround maintenance and water view. Just recently, the EFCC announced the arrest of the former NNPC CFO for embezzling, for corruption to the tune of $7.2 billion, Umar Issa. And then we've not heard anything from Nnaemeka since he was relieved of his appointment. Are you expecting any sort of accountability? Will justice be served? Will taxpayers' monies be recovered? Or it will be swept on the carpet and we'll just move on to other issues?
I'm not expecting any tangible changes. This is not the first time we've had crack private sector professionals who are in the NNPC. Before now, we had Kachukwu. I don't think any of them comes better than Kachukwu. And of course, you saw what happened and how they practically sabotaged all his reform efforts at that place. At the end of the day, they kicked him out and brought Mike and Tibaru to do their job. See, let me tell us the truth. Just stop wasting our time. Whether you bring an angel to run the NNPC and allow NNPC to be owned the way it is currently owned by the Federal Ministry of Finance and the Petroleum Ministry, and then still subject it under the shenanigans that we have seen in the public sector, it will never work. Because we should not continue doing this. You can't keep on rinsing nonsense, and you expect to get sense out of it. We cannot continue in this atmosphere of chaos and corruption and wickedness and deliberate deceit. Brazilians had to undergo the same reform. And what did they do? They unbundled Petrobras, sold down 72% of the shareholding of Petrobras to 4 core private sector investors. Today, look at where Petrobras is. Petrobras was established years after the Nigerian National Oil Corporation that transmuted into NNPC in 1977. If the federal government is sincere, and I dare challenge them if they are very, very sincere, do the right thing. What is it that we are able to privatize petrochemical plant element? What is it that we did the right thing at energy? When it comes to NNPC, everybody keep pussyfooting, deceiving. See, Nigerians should stop all this, allowing them to be playing us with this kind of hazy games. Do the right thing. Unbundle the ownership there, make it a truly private limited liability company. Sell down 70% of the shareholding of the Federal Ministry of Finance and Petroleum Ministry. Sell it to 3 core investors within the downstream oil and gas in Nigeria. 10%. Sell 40% to Nigerians. List it on the floor of the exchange. And I tell you of a truth, within the next 1 year, you will see optimal results. Our crude oil output will go back to 2.4, 2.5 million barrels a day. Our output, our results will be wrapped up, and those refineries will start working. Those refineries can easily work. Upfront, some of those refineries were built in less than 3-4 years. Why can't we repair them over 80 years? I just saw this clearly. Why do you think the likes of Shell, the likes of Chevron, the likes of Total, they have interest and stakeholding in refineries in other countries, but they refuse to put their stake here in Nigeria because they know that here is a place, a crime scene. Here is a center of corruption. People are better corruption. People shamelessly do corruption until try to persecute and put a cover over Nigerian faces. But they're not here. But they know that the first refinery was built by Shell. But they're not here in Nigeria again because they see us clearly for who we are. A certain perfidious, cheat-hole jungle of corrupt men and women. It's a lot of refuse to repent and change. Let me tell you, I put it to you. Yeah, next 4 or 5 years, it will still be the same thing. If we don't uproot this corruption, this will not come on from the immigration. But to only put it is to do what we did at NLNG, is to do what Patriots did. Without any of these fundamental changes, we are wasting our time.
So I need to ask on this because you seem to be on the side already of privatization of the NNPC. But would you trust a privatization process, particularly under this administration? It's a 2-part question. Let me also ask about modular refineries, because we've been hearing a lot about that and about modular refineries being the way forward. Why are they seemingly not prioritized? If we're having failure with the NNPC, why are we not looking in another direction to see what we can get out of the crude oil? But primarily, would you trust the privatization process at this time?
Let me tell you, to privatize the NNPC and to unbundle it, if the government of the day is very sincere, it can be done within 6 months to 1 year. There's no skyrocket science about it. We have a template we can provide for them. There's no skyrocket science about it. It's first of all to put the evolution of the place. My talking about finally was one of the reasons why I blamed Jonathan Goodluck. Because if you look at one of the 2 things that the former opposition, APC, used to demonize Goodluck Jonathan was the corruption then, the subsidy scam and racketeering that happened under the Ziani and Co. And Jonathan did not do what he was supposed to do then by firing the Ziani and Co. at the early stage. And some of the other things where he allowed his gentlemaness to overcome his sense of reasoning. The modular refinery route, people always talk about modular refinery, it's very, very good. There was a suggestion by one of the senators. I won't mention his name because I don't have his permission. And one of those suggestions was very simple. Firstly, you build refineries near source of crude. And the arrangement was for the federal government to dredge the waterways One of the reasons why we have flood in Nigeria because we have refused to dredge, we have refused to desilt. The only person who attempted it was Yar'Adua. He awarded the contract, he died, and nothing happened about it. One of what it was to dredge from the Escravos all the way to Jeddah. And when you dredge, refineries who can do shoreline embankment and everything, and then do a PPP arrangement that will allow you to be dredged every year and be swept every year to allow the water sand collected again at the base of the waterways. And then this is a law. Nobody will get marginal field in Nigeria again without any approval, license, financial capacity to do refineries here in Nigeria. The arrangement was very simple. We have the whole sub-Saharan African market to take care of. If we have passed this law, all the people that we paper qualify and give marginal field wouldn't have been chasing for marginal field to look for who they will farm it out to. Basically, what we have done was to get the best, the most technical capable, the most financial capable to take our marginal field licenses, draw our crude oil, build modular refineries attached to it, refine, and will export and take over the whole of Africa. And then it will help us to meet our opaque quota selling crude without also destroying the local economy of production. You have many countries in Nigeria today that don't have even a liter of crude oil, yet they have some of the biggest refineries, like Greece and other places. So if the current government can still adopt the same process, nobody is going to get marginal field license, oil block license without showing proof that we will have a refinery here that will be built. We will sell out a crude of any crude that we have now should be considered refining here in Nigeria. And if we do this and get it right, this country will move forward. Most of the refineries that are modular refineries are doing well, from OPAC to Watersmith to Niger Delta Refinery and to each one of them. They are doing so well. The federal government again should also stop this selective treatment of giving crude to Naira crude for Naira to those they think are big refineries. Whereas those that are doing modular are neglected. There is no refinery in Nigeria that is not important. Everybody invested based on his financial capacity, and all of them are invested. All of them must be treated equal. That must be level playing ground. I have seen some of the moves being made for them to ban importation of petroleum products. Nobody should allow that. Look at Niger. Niger has a refinery that produces 3 times what they consume. The refinery at Shutdown produces almost about 20,000 barrels, refines 2,000 barrels of crude every day. What they consume in Niger is about 6,500 barrels a day. Yet, despite the fact that Niger produces 3 times what it consumes and is exporting, they have not banned imports because the only way you can you avoid monopoly or oligopoly is to provide a fair entry and exit arrangement. See, anybody who is very, very sincere knows that if the refinery owners in Nigeria are playing well, are doing what is honest, are not exporting from Nigerians, there is no way somebody will refine in Chad, in Russia, or refine in America, and you bring it in cheaper here. Yes, we say cost of production of crude in Nigeria is high. It's high because of the same inefficiencies for corruption. If we do the right thing and put the right situations in place, we will compete favorably with other oil producing countries. But the only problem we have in Nigeria is the problem of leadership, the problem of corruption, the problem of deliberate inefficiencies put in place by those in power. When we put in place level playing ground, Nigeria is one country that ticks the right boxes to be a paradise. But we have turned it into Hades because of the few incompetent leadership we have and the elites who have refused to speak out. And who have adopted the cowardice mode because they want to be invited to the looting table. Thank you very much, Dr. Obiaraeri. Just before we let you go, I want to also follow up on refineries. We know the Dangote refinery has been in operation for a while now. We can feel the effect. There's also talks of BUA refinery coming up later, sometime this year. And if the NNPC eventually fixes the Nigerian refineries, does it mean that petroleum marketers will be out of business? Because why would you, what would be the logical case for importing refined products into the country? And for Nigerians watching, they also want to know, I mean, this crude is gotten from Nigeria. Why are we paying so much for petrol products? Will this price ever come
down to under 500. What will it take to get them to that level? Because the price of fuel is connected to cost of living, transportation, and so many things.
On many occasions, shared with us the recipe for us to achieve energy security and energy price stability in Nigeria. And the truth is, we are not doing what we are doing right in Nigeria. If you look at our cost of production in terms of crude, it's estimated that our crude production is about $30, $31 per barrel. Unlike in Saudi Arabia, unlike in Russia, unlike in other places where you are producing crude at $10 to $15 per barrel. Countries like the US also produce crude very expensive, and of course we know why, because of fracking, which is an expensive technology. Can Nigeria produce their crude per barrel at a cheaper cost than we are producing now? Yes, the technology is available, but we've deliberately allowed insecurity, we've deliberately allowed inefficiency and corruption to stop us from doing what is right. I've also made suggestions. If we want to ensure that price of the petroleum product, the wet petroleum product, sells for 500 naira to 800 naira per liter year on year, or even lower, irrespective of what happened in the global commodity market, we know what to do. Currently, we have Warri, 125,000 barrels a day. We have Port Harcourt, 210,000 barrels a day, the two trains, which is combined 35,000 barrels. And then with facilities there, you can easily collocate a new 160,000 barrel a day refinery that will normally cost you about $8 to $10 billion at the cost of $4 billion. Because there are already existing facilities that can be collocated with the rights and with the major refining machines. Now, to do that, we can decide to adopt a model that works, a PPP model that works. And what is that PPP model? Everybody all over the world knows that refinery margin, petroleum, oil and gas margin is thin. It's not like other sectors where you expect to make an EBITDA of 30% or 50%. But under this special arrangement, we can say, okay, we put these refineries in a bucket. And look, you can call that man or more man. They are key players in this industry. And okay, amongst them, they can come together, even with Ipman, and decide, okay, we are going to hand over this refinery to you under an arrangement, under a special purpose arrangement owned by the federal government. These blocks will own 30%. We will sell 40% to Nigerians or 50% to Nigerians. NNPC will own 20% and will list on the floor. And then they come up with a framework to collocate new 160,000 barrels a day under a cost plus margin arrangement. Cost of production, $30 per barrel, $10 per barrel refining cost. $30% margin, everything comes at about $53 per barrel. By the time you crack all the white petroleum products from PMS to gas oil to paraffin and all those stuff, you will see clearly. And add the 24% margin that will move from the depot owners to the truckers and to the filling stations anywhere in Nigeria. You will see that you will sell white petroleum products for that price you're talking about. Why guaranteeing that the players within that sector earn their marginal margin, not over profit? And of course, how do we protect the products from being kited out of Nigeria? We set up something like a petroleum bulk purchasing company by the same SROs, different SROs, and such a way that we also meter our stations, our fields, wherever. There are digital ways of controlling these things. And when you do this, and every Nigerian become a participant in protecting the oil and gas industry, we've come up with different models.
Dr. Obiaraeri, I really wish we could go on, but we have fast run out of time. Thank you so much for your time and insights on the subject. We do appreciate investment banker and public affairs analyst Dr. Nnaemeka Obiaraeri. Thank you. You're watching Breakfast Central, News Central Television. Let's bring you a recap of our stories so far this morning. President Bola Tinubu constitutes committee for state burial of late former President Muhammadu Buhari.
FG faces criticism as NNPCL confirms state refineries remain non-operational.
Party ADC members disassociate themselves from Gagara-led leadership.
And coming up next, the life and legacy of late former President Muhammadu Buhari.
Nigeria's constitution in focus as Patriots others set to hold 2025 Confab from Wednesday.
And Kano targets 70 LGAs as Kaduna and others canvass for state police during Constitution Review hearing.
You stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We will be reflecting on the life and legacy of Nigeria's former President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away at the age of 82 in London. From his times as a military ruler to elected president, Buhari's journey was one of conviction, controversy, and complexity.
Now, his leadership spanned decades, from his war against indiscipline in the 1980s to his anti-corruption crusade in the 2010s. But how will history remember him? Joining us this morning is to give us some insight into him is someone who worked closely with him for 8 years, Mr. Femi Adesina, former special advisor on media and publicity to now former President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away on Sunday. Mr. Adesina, welcome to Breakfast Central. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Now, let's just begin with it. You are, we forgot to add that you are the author of the book, Working with Buhari. Now, let's begin with your personal reflections. You've described him as not just a boss, but a friend. What made President Buhari stand out to you as a leader?
Yes, let me start by saying I had known President Buhari a couple of years before he became president. We had been acquainted, we had been speaking. Because I used to write a column at the back page of The Sun every Friday. And a couple of times I wrote about him. One Saturday morning, I had written about him the previous day. One Saturday morning, my phone just rang. I picked it, and he said, "This is Muhammadu Buhari." I said, which Buhari? He said, the same Buhari. I screamed. And then we talked about my article of the previous day. And since then, we began to talk. Then in 2013, my mother passed away. We were having the obsequies in Lagos here, and I invited a number of people, including President Buhari. I was shocked when he showed up. And he sat through the service, a Christian service, for somebody they used to call a religious bigot. He sat through the service. That fetched him greater respect from me. And when eventually he won the election, on the night he won the election in 2015, I think that was March 31 or something, I had just come from work. I was MD editor-in-chief of the Sun newspapers. So I came home sometime after 10 and we were watching the results coming. About to midnight, it was clear he had won. Then, after midnight, my phone rang again. And the person said, "Please hold on for the president-elect." And Lord, he came on the line and he said, "Adesina," which was how he liked to call me, "Adesina, thank you very much for your help over the years. I didn't have a bottle of Coke to give you, but you supported me, you gave me your support. Others could have paid you millions of naira. You didn't follow them, but you followed me." I was astonished that he could call me that late. And I told my wife, "This man calling me so late, I hope he will not say, 'Come and work with me,' because I was MD of the Sun, I was president of the Nigeria Guild of Editors. I just was satisfied with what I was doing." And lo and behold, before the inauguration on May 31, I got a call saying I was going to be appointed special advisor on media and publicity. So that's the background to our relationship, which lasted 8 good years.
So, Mr. Adesina, it's interesting to see the former president through your eyes, and in the conversations we've had, it's a mixed bag for many people because he was many things. He was many characteristics to different people, whether it's his family, those who's worked with him, those who encountered him as a military dictator, and then those who have also encountered him as a democratically elected president. Nigeria faced 2 recessions under the late president. How did President Buhari respond to this behind the scenes? And do you think that his economic legacy would be one that, at the end of time, will be viewed favorably? Because there are those who believe that it's his economic decisions that are part of the foundation of where Nigeria finds itself currently now economically.
Well, what I'll say is that on all sectors, President Buhari did his level best. You never find any president anywhere in the world that does all the things that needs to be done in the country. It has not happened anywhere, and I guess it will never happen anywhere. The job never finishes. The president comes, does his bit, moves on, and another person continues. So that is the perspective in which I see the performance of President Buhari across the sectors. There were some sectors in which he shone brilliantly. There were some that we could say, well, average, but by and large, it was a very significant time in Nigeria's history.
Now, Mr. Adesina, can you share with us what transpired in your last meeting with the late president? How was he faring? What did you talk about? And could you share those intimate moments with us, if you may?
Yes, it was precisely on March 17. I was with him March 17 and 18. He had just moved home from Katsina, from Daura, his traditional homestead, to his house in Kaduna. When we left government, his house in Kaduna was uninhabitable. It had been there for 8 years, nobody lived there, so it needed to be renovated. And that renovation had continued till it was concluded early this year. So in February, he moved to Kaduna, which was where he had always lived. Daura is his traditional homestead, but Kaduna is where he had always lived. So he moved to Kaduna. And then March 17 and 18, I went to visit him in the new home. I remember that when I got there, he was reading newspapers. Almost all the newspapers in the country were spread on the table before him. He was reading one. And you see, one thing about Buhari is, whenever he sees me, his eyes light up. I know that. His eyes light up. And he has a winsome smile. So he gave me that winsome smile, and he had risen up to greet me. So we sat down. I then asked him, Mr. President, how are you doing? He said, I'm fine. I am free from Nigeria's problems now, so I'm very fine. So we chatted about different things, happenings in the country, his family. He asked after my family and all that. I stayed till the next day before I returned to Lagos. It was a week or less than 2 weeks after that, then he traveled. And in traveling, he was not carried. He walked on his feet. He looked very fit. And he went abroad, only for this to happen now. So that was our last meeting.
In words, as you said, as Wenga mentioned, you are, of course, the author of a book that focuses on working with the former president. You described him as eyes on, hands off. And this is a style, this is a decision. Leaders decide to lead in different ways. They can micromanage and they can trust that they've put the right people, competent people in place. They have the, what do we call it, the round pegs in the round holes, the square pegs in the square holes, and they let them do their job. But do you think that this style empowered his ministers or allowed too much latitude? Because when we go back, the president campaigned more than once, more than twice, before he eventually became president. And there was a lot of expectations. Some say that former President Muhammadu Buhari is the president that enjoyed the most amount of goodwill from Nigeria Nigerians in this administration,
in the build up to
his administration. But then we have this time lapse between when the president puts his ministers in place. Then we have these issues that start coming in. There are a number of controversies under his administration, but eyes on, hands off meant that his ministers had to carry a large part of the blame. But as we like to say, the buck eventually stops on the table of the president for either his ministers' actions or inactions. So do you think that this style empowered his ministers, or at a point allowed too much latitude and there was not enough involvement from the president in saying, this is what I want you to do, I'm empowering you, go and do it, make the change and the difference for Nigerians?
Well, every leader reserves the right to pick his leadership style. And like I said, Buhari's style was eyes on, hands off. It never interferes. There were times I, as his media advisor, would go to meeting. For instance, there was a time that the Zagzaki group in Kaduna had a face-off with the military, and there was mayhem. On the meeting, Mr. President, what are we going to say? He laughed and said, you are my media advisor. You tell me what to say. That was his style. Minister Fashola told me a story. He said when he was appointed Minister for Works and Housing, Power Works and Housing initially, he said the president sent for him and told him, Fashola, all I want from you is build me second Niger Bridge, build the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway and finish it, and then build Abuja-Kaduna Expressway. So do those three things and I will leave you alone. That's his style. And Fashola did those three things. The only one he didn't complete was Abuja-Kaduna Road. He completed Lagos-Ibadan. He completed second Niger Bridge. So there's advantage in leaving your appointees to work. When you want to micromanage them, you are breathing down their necks. It has a way of also being negative.
Now, Mr. Adesina, we've seen a video that's been trending since the passing of the former president, in which President Buhari was asking for forgiveness to those who he might have committed any form of injustice or wrongdoing against. What do you think informed that perspective of him? It's very rare, especially coming from a former military ruler who was once in the military, and but I mean in the African context generally, to kind of reflect and ask for forgiveness. It was quite magnanimous in doing that. What do you think? Can you give us a context surrounding that plea?
That video is by no means new. It was in the twilight of the administration. I think it was in the very last week of the administration. There was an event where the president said, well, I'm exiting. If I offended anybody, let them forgive me. It's just natural. It's natural. I see people making heavy weather of it now. It's not necessary. It's what any exiting leader will say if he was a down-to-earth leader. In 8 years, it's not unlikely that you stepped on some toes, you hurt some people, and he said, if I did, forgive me. So it's not a new thing. I see a lot of twists and turns to that statement, which is not necessary.
So, Mr. Adesina, I want you to speak to something. It was in 2017. Because I'm asking this because I've seen what I would term conspiracy theories online. And I think someone like you is in a prime position to address this. And it was after the president's prolonged medical trip to London in 2017 that there was a rumor that went into overdrive. And bizarre conspiracy theories, primarily propagated online, I'll say that, claimed that the president had died and had been secretly replaced by a clone named Jubril from Sudan. And even in the midst of national mourning, and again, as I said, a mixed bag of reactions to his passing, there are those who are saying, what are you talking about? That the president passed away in 2017, that they don't even know who we're burying, who we're mourning, and who we're trying to do a state burial for. Mr. Adesina, I think this would be a prime time for you to speak to, can we say, that conspiracy, because it's one that unfortunately seems to have gained ground and has not let go since 2017.
Well, I'll just say it's hogwash. It's what hogwash. It doesn't even deserve a response. But you find that even scientific people believed that harebrained story simply because they have things against Buhari. There was a way I responded to that when it happened in 2017. I told the story of the day the president returned. I think it was August 19. That day, the chief of defense staff, General Gabriel Olodishaki, was giving out his daughter in marriage. So I attended the service. In fact, it was during the service that I got word that the president was coming back, that I should inform the country. I typed the statement at that place and we released it. So he was to land at 4 o'clock. By the time the wedding ended and we went for reception, I couldn't go back home to change. I was in full agbada with cap, as would befit a wedding ceremony. So I couldn't go back to change to my normal type of attire. When the president landed, there was this welcoming line, which we usually do according to seniority. When he was shaking hands and greeting people, when he got to me, he said, Adesina, this is the best I have seen you dressed. Agbada and cap. And he laughed, we both laughed. If you recall the video of that is alive, you will see the two of us laughing. That was what made us to laugh. Now, if he was Jubilee of Sudan, how did he know I was Adesina? How would he know I was Adesina? That was what I used to respond to those parading those falsehood at that time. And I stand by that. Those of us who saw him every day, how would it be a body double or an impostor? And we will not know. So, those peddling that story, they just did it out of their, will I say wicked mind? Well, out of their mind.
Now, Mr. Adesina, quite a lot of Nigerians, and especially Nigerians who grew up in that lived through the 80s and his first sojourn as president, albeit military ruler, often perceive the late president as, a stern disciplinarian, a soldier, hardly smiling, this Megaskia figure closest. But you've just shared a story with us of his lighter side, some humorous side of the president. Could you share some of those stories which you recall of the late president's softer side?
Many, many. In fact, if you lay your hands on my book, Working with Buhari, a whole chapter is dedicated to the lighter side of the president. He had a secretary who, whenever I come to the office, he will hear us laughing from inside the office. When I come out, he says, why is it that it is when you come here that Baba laughs? He was like that. When President Buhari is comfortable with you in his skin, oh, you will enjoy him. He was a very, very humorous person. One day I remember we were traveling to Cotonou there. The president had an event and we were going. I put on a cap, which was on the larger side. When he saw me, he said, Adesina, this cap is too large. I laughed. And then the following week, I put on a smaller cap. When he saw me, he said, this cap is too small. He was like that. He enjoyed, he observed everything. His personal photographer, Bayo Omoboriwo, of the younger generation, wears these multicolored socks every time. We didn't know that the president was noting it. When the Bayo came into an event we were about to have, with just one color socks, and the president said, Bayo, where are the multicolored socks? You wouldn't think he would notice things like that. But that was the man. That was the man. He had that lighter side that unless he was comfortable with you in his skin, you wouldn't notice.
Okay, I know we don't have too much time left with you, Mr. Adesina. I'll try to quickly pack this. Unfortunately, during his tenure, there were some hashtags, a lot of hashtags that reigned during the time of President Buhari. Hashtag London is calling. Hashtag fix our hospitals is one of the ones. And as a private citizen now, the president passed away in a hospital in London. There have been reactions to that as well. The opportunity for him in 8 years to make some changes and some advancements in Nigeria's medical sector. You can talk about a number of things that many might list as the negatives in his administration. The Twitter ban in 2021. We've talked about the Jubril rumor, the lazy Nigerian youth conversation or comment in 2018. You also have the NSARS and the delayed national address issue in 2020. There's also the cashless policy that came about in 2023, right before the elections. But you also have those who will possibly look at the positives, that the Buhari administration implemented several social welfare programs and initiatives. There was the Empower program, there was the conditional cash transfer program, there's also the government enterprise and empowerment program, as well as the national homegrown school feeding program. And as I said earlier, it is a mixed bag. Tomorrow, we're likely expecting that he will have a state burial. At the end of the day, what do you say to Nigerians? There are those who are saying, do not speak ill of the dead. There are those who are saying, we had our experiences and this is who Buhari was to us. At the end of the day, a message to Nigerians, 8 years of an administration, a few years of a military dictator, one of the most talked about leaders that Nigeria has probably ever had, passed away in a London hospital. What do you think his final legacy, his final thoughts would have been for Nigerians in these final days?
Well, I came, I saw, I did my bit. Let Nigerians judge. That's what he will have said. As I said at the beginning, no leader anywhere in the world does everything that needs to be done in a country. President Buhari came, he did his honest bit, and when it was time to leave, he left. He didn't attempt to elongate his term. He bowed out gracefully. History will be kind to him.
And on that note, we'd like to say a big thank you to you, Mr. Femi Adesina, former Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to late President Muhammadu Buhari and author of the book, Walking with Buhari. It's been a pleasure speaking with you this morning on Breakfast Central. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
And again, it continues to be a mixed bag. You can talk about the Twitter ban, you can talk about NSARS, you can talk about the cashless policy. I know what I went through. I know what millions of Nigerians went through. But again, as I said earlier, we tend to experience people differently. And in a place where one decision impacts millions of people, there's definitely going to be different reactions. It's expected.
I remember when Margaret Thatcher, people experience people differently. I remember when Margaret Thatcher passed, there's always mix, especially for public figures. I guess it comes with the territory. It does come with the territory. And I recall his answer to your question about the late president's hands-off
style of leadership. Yes.
And quite a number of people felt it was way too hands-off, that it was totally hands-off, because there's hardly any cabinet reshuffle, just...
No consequences for not doing, for these ministers who are holding these portfolios, not doing what needed to be done. And it's just...
And I remember the CBN governor, it's unheard of and it's sacrilegious. You're still a CBN governor, and then you're expressing interest.
But it wasn't just him. Remember that there were other ministers in his cabinet who either wanted to run for governor, I think who mainly wanted to run for governor or even the National Assembly, and there was really no comment. There was no sort of like a cracking of the whip and saying, if you're working with me in this administration, this is not acceptable.
It only happened in the dying days of the administration.
After a lot of noise.
Yes. So I guess its legacy, his claim, he's done his sin and his done his best.
And again, as I said, a number of controversies that have been parts of the Buhari administration. There was the comment he made in 2016, my wife belongs in the kitchen, when he was talking during a joint press briefing with then German Chancellor Angela Merkel in Berlin. We've noted, of course, the cashless policy in 2023. Another hashtag that used to trend during the former president's time was, where is Buhari? It's NSARS will forever be a defining moment in his presidency. We can't, of course, ignore that. There's also the border closure policy from 2019 to 2020 and the impact that that had on millions of Nigerians as well. The Twitter ban of 2021, the impact it had on businesses, particularly small and medium scale businesses here in Nigeria, and so many other things.
And
but
then
there's a flip side.
The currency issues too.
Yes.
And then the colorization, because it wasn't a currency change. It just
and there's a controversy about his appointments as well. And I do agree with Mr. Adesina on one point. You'll never have a president that is everything that's the best to everyone. You will always have a mixed bag, but here's a little bit more because of his place in Nigeria's history as a former military dictator. Just for you to note, our correspondent in Dara has confirmed that they have started digging the grave in which the president will be buried in, and as we told you earlier, we will continue to have updates for you from Dara throughout the course of the day up to tomorrow and possibly afterwards, with the expectation that the state burial will be happening tomorrow. So the grave in which former President Muhammadu Buhari, once a military dictator, will be buried in, the digging of that grave has begun in Dara.
Quite surreal, and I mean, it's just life, yes. But away from that, let's tell you that women inclusion in governance efforts at combating insecurity, local government autonomy, and state creation took center stage at the Northwest Constitutional Review public hearing, which held in Kaduna State. While the Kano State government says the state has undergone rapid urban and infrastructural development, thus the need for an additional 26 local government areas in order to increase the number of LGAs in the state to 70. All the states of Kaduna, Gagara, and Katsina made far-reaching demands. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu covered the proceedings and filed in this report.
Interest groups articulating their positions with the hope of being captured in the constitution amendment process. The traditional institutions are also more vocal as they say that the removal of their offices in the amended 1999 constitution was an error and needs to be corrected.
Constituency. On behalf of the entire traditional rulers in this country, we have made it very, very clear that all we are asking for, from the National Assembly and the government of Nigeria is to revert back to our former position. Because from the amalgamation of Northern and Southern protectorates in 1900 up to 1999, the traditional rulers were in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But after the 1999 Constitution, we were completely excluded.
A gathering of 4 states comprising Kano, Jigawa, Katsina, and the host, Kaduna, who articulated issues peculiar to their states that will require new legislations.
State policing, bill to establish the state policing and other latest utilities we are all strongly supporting. National security justification. National security architecture is overstretched and effectiveness, especially in rural and conflict-prone regions.
Cognizance of the burgeoning population of Kano State, its landmass, concomitant demands and requirements for improvement in social well-being and equitable development, the government and people of Kano State strongly advocate the creation of 26 additional local government areas in the state to meet the yearnings and aspirations of the people.
Kaduna State supports the establishment of state police to complement federal police efforts in order to enhance security at the grassroots level.
Nigeria's last constitution amendment was in 1999, and with the current trends, the country looks forward to new laws meant to drive development in the interest of citizens. In Kaduna for News Central, Emmanuel Bagudu.
Watching Breakfast Central right here on News Central. We'll take a quick time out. A lot more on the lineup today. We'll be looking at the state of the nation as the Patriots launch a national confab. Then also, of course, you have front page newspaper review coming your way. We'll also be touching base in Dara as preparations begin for the state burial of the late President Muhammadu Buhari. Do stay with us.
Yeah, welcome back to Breakfast Central here on News Central Television, and we will head live to Daura, Katsina State, the hometown of the late President Muhammadu Buhari, as preparations for his state funeral are in full gear. And we have our News Central correspondent on standby, Jamil Mabai, to give us the latest updates and developments in Daura. Good morning to you, Jamil. Please, can you keep us up to speed with the events in Daura this morning, your location, and how things are panning out this morning?
Okay, I'm currently inside the late former President Muhammadu Buhari house, and part of the preparation, as confirmed by his former aide Garba Shehu, he told us that the digging of the burial, the grave of the president has commenced and started, and also the president's body has left London today by 6, and is expected to arrive by 12 from where they will bring him down to Daura local government for the prayer. And the prayers will take place outside of his residence, from which the body will be brought into his house where he will be buried. And behind me over there are footages behind me, I sense where the digging has commenced, and also in some parts of the house, usually in the female, where the female recitation for army prayers have commenced as well. But guests are yet to start. As you can see, the house is still empty, but just journalists. But we expect any moment from now that guests will start arriving. In terms of security arrangements, the security is tight, and right from from our sources, right from Katsina down to Daura, at every inch there are security soldiers and police stationed at strategic locations. And in front of the house also, there is massive presence of military and police and civil defense authorities also there. So far, this is the update we have.
Okay, so you've mentioned the security presence. Can you tell us if the family is around? I know it's going to be a very difficult time for them, but at this point, things are happening. So do we know if the family of the late president is also now in Daura, awaiting those who are coming to condole with them?
No, the family are yet to arrive in Daura. The immediate family are still in London with the wife and some of his closest, family relatives. Those that are here are usually the extended family of the late president, who have been receiving condolence visits from well-wishers and dignitaries from all parts of the country. So the family, the immediate family, are expected to come along with the presidential, delegation, probably to Katsina.
So the president did order a number of members of the Federal Executive Council to make their way to Daura to prepare for the state's burial tomorrow. Can you confirm if any of those representatives of the federal government have arrived now in Daura?
No, they are yet to arrive in Daura. The only person that is here in Daura is Garba Shehu, that we were able to interview. And the rest delegations, they are yet to be here in Daura. And I don't know, probably they have arrived at Katsina, maybe at the state government house. Probably they will be moving here with the governor. I don't know for that, but the only thing I can confirm since I arrived here, it's only Garba Shehu that has been, on and off, trying to make sure things are going the right way, especially with the digging of the grave. I don't know if you can just tell the camera back, because of the sunlight, if you can see from afar there, a group of people, that is where the burial ceremony, the body will be buried. You can see people there, group of people walking on the grave. So this is just what we have for now. It's only Garba Shehu, but we expect any moment from now, probably the delegation from the federal government will arrive here in Daura.
Now, finally, Jamil, before we let you go, has What's the mood like in Daura? Are we seeing a flurry of activities, unusual traffic of guests there? People started coming in to sign condolence registers and to pay their tribute to the late president. What do you know? Or what have you seen so far?
You know, as usual, the mood is that of pain and grief, like I always said. And as you can see, a lot of people, you know, are trooping into the house. And from their faces, you can see the pain and the, you know, the grief of losing, you know, an uncle, a father figure, and, you know, a leader. So, and the people of Daura are connected with the late former president in such a way that all virtually commercial activities have been halted. People have remained indoors to mourn the demise of their, you know, son here in Daura, especially the Emir of Daura, also who has a close relationship with the president. And if you will recall, Yusuf, the son's president, is one of the subjects of the emirs here in Daura. So, you know, the people of Daura are mourning, and you know, they have been calm and peace all through since the incident of the death of the president occurred.
All right, so Jamil, thank you so much for your time. We will be touching base with you throughout the day as activities and things continue to progress in line with the burial of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari. Thank you so much. All right, Benga, let's move on.
Okay, we'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we will be looking at the state of the nation. Do stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly. Concerned by the current situation of the state of the nation, Nigeria, eminent leaders of thought on the ages of the Patriots have slated July the 16th, 2025 to convene an emergency national constitutional summit. The Patriots National Confab were headed by a coalition of civil society groups, former governors and advocacy networks.
Organizers of the Confab say its mission is to gather stakeholders from every corner of the federal, state, and local government, as well as citizenry, charting a path forward on critical issues such as constitutional amendments, fiscal federalism and revenue sharing, security architecture, including state police, as well as electoral reforms and inclusivity.
But Nigerians have seen confabs before, but the real test is whether political heavyweights will let these discussions translate into action, especially with the 2027 elections looming. Join us to shed more light on the proposed confab and its significance this morning on Breakfast Central is human rights activist, Madam Ann-Kio Briggs. A warm welcome to you, Madam Briggs, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central.
All right, let's take a quick break and work out these technical difficulties, because this is a national conversation of importance that we must have with Ann-Kio Briggs. We'll take a quick time out and we'll be back. Is this confab a genuine reset, addressing the grievances that we all have, or is it more? Stay with us. And as we said, joining us to shed more light on the proposed confab and its significance is human rights activist Ann-Kio Briggs. Ms. Briggs, thank you so much for joining us this morning once again.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.
I don't know about the glitches, but hopefully we can get on.
Thank you so much for joining us, Madam Briggs. Now, the big question is, why is this confab happening? Why are we having another confab? That we've had confabs and reports in the past, and the recommendations are gathering dust in the corridors of power. That will this be another talk show? Why is it important to have this confab now? And how are you confident that the recommendations will be implemented?
First of all, you're quite right when you say that we've had several of these in the past. If you remember, since even before 1960, independence of 1960, Nigeria has had constitutions. And at the last count, we believe we've had about 9 constitutions so far. I don't know if we're the highest. None of the recommendations, at least since independence, really, apart from a lot of people say, and I tend to agree with them up to some point, that the best was the 1963, which was regional. After that, and the last one, the one Obasanjo did, and also the one that Jonathan convened, none of those were taken aboard for one reason or the other. In my opinion, it just shows that the political will is not there. And we've gone from good constitutions or semi-good constitutions to very bad constitution, which is the 1999 constitution that everybody else, every other person has said that this is not the right constitution. One, we the people did not write this constitution in 1999. It was written by the military just before they left and handed over to the incoming ex-general who became President Obasanjo. And we've been battling and haggling and discussing.
We seem to be having some connectivity issues, but hopefully we should have.
Of whom I am a member. And if you look at the very great personalities that people like the late Sarotimi Williams, and then himself at one point was with the Anahoro group when we put together the People's Constitution immediately before the 1999 Constitution came out. So we've been on this for a very long time, and we believe, and I join in that belief with the Patriots and some of the persons, that if anybody understands in terms of democracy why we should have a new constitution, it would be the President Bola Tinubu, because of the role he played during the Nadeko days, leading up to the death of Abacha and then eventually the elections, that he of all persons is in a good position to push forward. And he did promise us, the Patriots, when we visited him sometime last year with our first introduction, that we do need a new constitution in Nigeria. We're not looking at panel beating the 1999 constitution. Okay. We're not looking at any other thing, but actually the people of Nigeria, as you introduced it, from all nooks and crannies, coming together, not under government this time. We're not funded, well, at least I don't know, because I'm paying my way to the Constitution, to the Congress. Confab. So definitely it's not a government thing. It's a Nigerian thing. It's Nigerians that have coming together to do this. So maybe this is the one that would work.
So I want to follow up on that, because as Benga said, Nigerians are used to confabs, we're used to summits, we're used to so many things. Even now there is a constitutional review. There's a constitutional review happening across the states in the federation, and you find out that a lot of people are not involved. You hear from the people involved, but you find out a lot more Nigerians are not involved. So I'm very curious as to how you're going to get the buy-in of the people. I have a follow-up question after that, but for first, let's focus on getting the buy-in of ordinary citizens, of the citizenry of Nigeria, who have had their lives shaped and formed by several constitutions that did not come of them in the most parts. As you said, the criticism of the 1999 Constitution was that it was written and handed over by the military to a former military official, just finding a way to continue what they were doing constitutionally and democratically. So how do you get the buy-in of Nigerians who have been in some form browbeaten, who have been pushed to the ground, pushed to the wall, who have, this very same 1999 Constitution has often even been used against them, used against their freedoms and their rights, even with those freedoms and rights, even inside the Constitution. How do you get us to buy into what you're doing?
Absolutely, and that's a wonderful question, because you are a Nigerian, I'm a Nigerian. This is about you. This is about the market woman. This is about the vulcanizer. It's about the judge. It's about everybody, and so everybody should have a buy-in if they get to hear about it. And so the Patriots have done a lot of sensitization, a lot of media work, as much as we can do to sensitize people to come in and be part of what is being done, so that it will be their constitution. Now, what we're doing is to make sure that as many Nigerians as possible are aware of this. We're not making any input more than any persons, just gathering Nigerians from all the 6 geopolitical zones, from all states. I'm from the South-South geopolitical zone, the Niger Delta region. I am from Rivers State. I'm from an ethnic nationality. And so everybody's voice, every nationality should be represented. Every state is represented. Every zone is represented. The reason, if you are aware, the reason why this was shifted from today to tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to do this tomorrow, is because of the passing of the former president, late President Buhari. Yes. In honor of him, it's been shifted. And so we will go ahead and make sure that at least we sit down, come to an agreement amongst us, and then go ahead and hand it over to the president and the National Assembly, so that the National Assembly will then be able to play the role that it should play by putting together and agreeing with us that this should be done on our behalf. They are representatives, and that at some point, when we come to them, which will be after this first sitting down and discussing, then it will go to the presidency and it will go to the National Assembly and say that, look, this is what we have come up with as Nigerians, and this is our request. Now, Nigerians have to be involved, because the grounds that we first have with this 99th Constitution, as you have said, is that Nigerians did not sit down to write this Constitution. So until Nigerians sit down to write this Constitution, the fact that we have all these faults, blatant faults with this Constitution, where almost 80% of the powers that should be with the states are with the federal government, is not acceptable, because then the people are not represented. And quite rightly, the Constitution has allowed the governors, the representatives, even the president, no matter whom it is, and not just Bola Tinubu, any other president that has so much powers, to use it against the people of Nigeria, so that the people of Nigeria are disempowered. We have interference or seeming interference with the judiciary that should be the last hope of the common man. So there is a lot going wrong. Most of the things that is going wrong with the country is from lack of political will, lack of good personalities, good people in government, and also lack of a good constitution that will hold everybody, you and I, and the people in government, accountable to every Nigerian, and every Nigerian are even accountable to the people that are governing them. But we have to start somewhere, and some of us have become synonymous with, if you like, with voicing that, hey, look, what's going on in this country is not acceptable. Not because we have nothing else to do, but if the fish is, if the head is rotten, then I mean, you just can't eat the fish, and that's where Nigerians are, from diplomatic relationships to the rights of Nigerians abroad, to the rights of Nigerians in Nigeria, to accountability, you name it. We don't have it in Nigeria, whichever way you look at it. And I think it's only Nigerians, I believe, not I think, it's only Nigerians that can fix it. And if it means that we have to continue to knock our heads against the brick wall until perhaps when we refuse to do it anymore, then that's the way it's going to go. But I believe this is in the interest of Nigerians, it's in the interest of the people who claim that they are our representatives and politicians to actually stand up and serve the people of Nigeria under a constitution or on a constitution that Nigerians have given to them to work with. Like right now, you mentioned that there is a constitutional reform going on that is being done by the National Assembly. Well, yes. Well, some of us have not even bothered because we keep saying that you cannot continue to bandage Nigeria and plaster Nigeria over without actually letting us sit down and agree to what is right and what is wrong, from resource management to resource sharing to security, to representing Nigerians out of Nigeria. You know, so much is wrong, and we must fix it.
So I quickly want to follow up, because I know Benga has a question, because as we talk about the Constitution review, some would say, who gives the Patriots the, I guess, the legitimacy, maybe I'll use that question, in terms of being able to do this? What legitimacy does the Patriots, and I believe you're working with the NPSG in having this summit, what legitimacy do you have in introducing a draft constitution, given that, according to the Constitution, constitutional drafting is traditionally the mandate of a constituent assembly or the National Assembly and not an advisory conference? And even while me and you may agree and have our concerns about the constitutional review processes happening across local governments in the country, those are the ones that by law are mandated to be able to reform, review, redraft the Constitution. So people might ask, where is the legitimacy for the Patriots and the NPSG to even hold this confab and present the president with a draft constitution?
The legitimacy is coming purely because we're Nigerians, and then purely because we are the ones who have decided to step forward. Look, if any other group of persons that are Nigerians come forward the way that the Patriots and the other associates have decided to come forward on behalf of Nigeria, definitely I would be part of it, and I'm sure a lot of the Patriots will be part of it. The Patriots have come forward because no other person has come forward. You quite rightly said earlier on, there have been a lot of other sitting downs from government. Obasanjo has done his own, so many other people, Jonathan did his own. At the end of the day, quite rightly, it's gathered dust in some office or the other. And so giving it one more shot, if you like, is something that is the right of every Nigerian to do, and it is in our interest to do it. We're not just saying we have written a constitution and we want you to carry this constitution. No, I mean, we're hopefully going to expect the government to do it right and say, okay, we will do this with you, but we'll take it to referendum. We will take it to plebiscite. Now, some will tell you that the referendum, the right to referendum, is not actually in our constitution of the 1999. Well, referendum is a very basic right for people to do. If you don't agree with what is being done in your name, then you should. It then should take us to referendum or plebiscite. So if that is what it will take then to get another constitution that is written by the people, for the people, then that is what ought to be done. That we are taking the first step. It's not an easy step to take. It's not an easy thing to do, because questions like you've asked, Who gave us the audacity? Who gave us the authority? Where are we deriving our rights from? We're deriving the only right that we all collectively have, which is the fact that we're Nigerians, and we think that this constitution is against the Nigerians. From one corner to the other of this country, there is something working against us within this constitution, just for the mere fact that it says we the people. No, we the people did not. So let's start even from there. No fisherman, no farmer, no palm wine tapper, no plantain roaster was involved. So let's get ourselves involved and come up with a constitution that that will bind the politicians. Look, a lot has gone wrong. We have a situation that has taken place in River State, for instance, and everybody has said it's wrong, it's unconstitutional, but hey, well, it's gone on, it's happened, and it can happen to another state. And if a new constitution is going to make sure that this does not happen, then so be it. Because look at what Shettima said. Shettima has said Jonathan wanted to do similarly or exactly the same thing. And the Attorney General told him, no, you can't do it. Now, here comes along the presidency of President Bola Tinubu and went ahead and did exactly, if not worse than what Jonathan wanted to do, all because we do not have the right people who are accountable to us, and we cannot really hold on to a constitution that we have not written, and people are swearing to serve Nigerians on that constitution, and yet they get into office and they do the total opposite of what they've sworn to do.
Now, Madam Briggs, people often say you're halfway to solving a problem when you identify that there is a problem, and your group, the Patriots, have taken the bold and brave step of setting up this audacious, if I may add, of setting up this Confab. I have a few questions for you. What are the modalities? How would you come about the draft constitution? And is this really, is it a pan-Nigerian conference? Is it all encompassing? Does it cover all Nigerians from all walks of lives? And is there also a timeline to this?
Definitely, it has taken into account from the moment it was decided to make contact with the president, how we're going to go about it. And we've had the first interaction with the president. He was not against it, but he said it was not a priority for him at that time and his government, which we accepted. But that didn't mean that we should drop the idea. He didn't even suggest it because he couldn't suggest it that we should drop the idea. He's a Democrat, as I have said. He has demonstrated that even before he became governor of Lagos State during the Nadeko days, during the military era. He was a victim, like many people, of the oppressive regime. So, and he also had said to us at that time that he would definitely be open to us. To having another interaction with him. So we believe that this is another interaction that we have a right to take to him. Now, I said earlier that every zone, south, south, southeast, southwest, north central, northeast, northwest, every zone is involved. People like Tamboa are involved. And that's why we can't really go on today, because a lot of people across Nigeria from all the geopolitical zones are heading or have headed to Daura in Katsina. And so it is when they finish that we will come back. So definitely there is a broad representation. Now, the content has been discussed prior to this time by the states, by the representation within the states. You see, that is why sometimes I say that, or most of the time I say that, you can't say people should not talk about ethnicity. Now, ethnicity itself is not a bad way. Now, if you have a state that has like in my state, that have Ikwere, that have Ogoni, that have Ijo, that have Ekpeye. You can't really not have everybody or most people from the different places expressing themselves. So in that sense, a lot has been done. And if we find that if some have been left behind, then when we sit down, because we're not putting full content into it, we're making, if you like, headline or point suggestions and saying the area of security, the area of state police, the area of devolving power, the area of how to tackle tackle corruption, in the area of how to do the right thing, obey the laws, not to find ourselves within a judiciary system that has let the people of Nigeria down, in my opinion. And so when we begin to express these ideas, it will go into the draft constitution. And at that point, Nigerians will come together and begin to assess, if you like, what has been put into the draft constitution, and then say, no, let's take this out because this doesn't favor me, or I don't want this. You can have it in your state, we cannot have it in our state. And that begins to give power to the states, which is what federalism is all about. Power must first come from the state, not with the federal government. The federal government should not have all those powers that belong to the state in their possession. It should be with the states. And then we should have a broader, if you like, input from the federal government, which would be very minimal, because people in different states need different things. Even in my state, for instance, and I keep raising my state because I can't speak for another state. In my state, for instance, we have riverine area and we have upland. So now the road, to build a road in riverine area is more expensive than to build a road in upland area. But that does not mean that you can't build a road in the riverine area because it's expensive. No, you must build the same kilometer for me, because we need bridges to interconnect, whereas the upland need roads to interconnect. So these are the problems of Nigerians. And unless the Constitution has looked into it and has taken these problems, and how do we solve these problems and take it on board and begin to solve the problem, you will have a situation where you can't travel from Akwa Ibom to Cross River, which is next door, because the road is so bad. And that is because it's federal government road. It shouldn't be. It should be state road. And so state is responsible to taking care of their roads and so on. So I hope I've given quite a clear picture of why we believe that, of why we believe, the Patriots believe, that this is the right of Nigerians to undertake and hand it over to our representatives, and then work together with our representatives to achieve this, so that we can have the right people representing us and doing what we have asked to do. Look, for instance, we have not had a census in Nigeria for more than 20 years. I mean, how do we begin to say we're more than 250 million persons? How do we know that? We're just guessing. We can't run a country by guessing how many people are in it.
Thank you so much for your time, Madam Ann-Kio Briggs. You've spoken extensively on the mission of the Patriots, and we will, as News Central, do cover and bring to the public the deliberations of the Confab. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful day.
The same to you.
Watching Breakfast Central, we'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we will be reviewing the newspaper headlines with Mr. Ike Chukwuamechi. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Breakfast Central, and it's time for us to look at the newspaper front pages. And join us this morning is the publisher of the niche newspaper, Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi. Thank you for joining us on Breakfast Central as always.
The pleasure is mine.
Let's just leave it at you see me today, right?
Okay.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's get started. We have several papers to get through, and we'll kick off right now with The Punch. The headline on the front page of The Punch: Daura kinsmen associates reflect on Buhari's final months. Several riders coming in from their state burial begins in Abuja today, interment to follow in Katsina. I was hospitalized in same London facility as Buhari, Abdulsalami. Jonathan visits Aisha in London as Amosun Lawal. Others arrive Daura. Tinubu appoints Akume Ribadu, others to burial committee. FG delegation visits Aisha, Maman Daura, and Abdulsalami in London. On the top of The Punch, we also have soldiers bar traditionalists from Awujale's Muslim funeral. Oshibajo governors Oshoba Dangote grace Awujale's burial. And we also have, of course, already some permutations as to who is going to sit on the throne as the new Awujale. Right beside the mask, we have Natasha fires back at Akpabio over reinstatement challenge. And this comes, I think, about a week after a judge said that her suspension was illegal and that she should return immediately to the Senate. And just a few more on the front page of The Punch. We have Naira rebounds to 4-month high, trades at 1,518 Naira. Ogun workers begin strike over 82 billion Naira pension arrears. And 2027, Adeleke attacks Aregbesola over plan to oust governor. Very hectic and very busy front page of The Punch coming there.
Let's take your reactions. I guess it's the first newspaper review since the passing of the late President Muhammadu Buhari. How would you assess his legacy?
Well, let me first of all express my condolences, of course, to the family, the immediate family, people of Daura, and of course, Nigerians. And whether we like it or not, Muhammadu Buhari was a president of this country, an elected president for 8 years, and of course was also a military head of state for 20 months. As a soldier, which was his first profession, he was an accomplished soldier who incidentally rose to be the head of state and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As a politician also, I would say he was also accomplished because, of course, having been elected president in 2015 and re-elected in 2019 and successfully served out 2 terms. So this is a man, perhaps apart from General Olusegun Obasanjo, nobody has superintended over the affairs of this nation as long as Buhari did. So to that extent,
he has a place in history.
He has a place in history, and of course I'm not surprised that the federal government is also giving him
a state burial.
It is something that is due to him because of the positions he has occupied. But having said that, and I've also expressed my condolences, the other side of the coin is what are his legacies? It's one thing to occupy the positions he occupied, but it's another thing altogether. What are we going to remember Muhammadu Buhari for? And that is where it gets a little tricky. I hear a lot of people who say it is un-African to talk ill of the dead. But I also think it is unethical to lie about the dead. And lying about the dead is not only when you don't say good things, but when you say what the person is not, wherever Muhammadu Buhari is today, if he is seeing what is being said about him, and I think the man might be pitching himself to ask, are these people really talking about me? Because all the things I am reading these days, a patriot who united Nigeria, who took Nigeria to greatest heights, blah, 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 blah. Are they really talking about former President Muhammadu Buhari, or are they talking about another person altogether? In any case,
I guess it depends on who's penning this.
No, but look, this man left office. We're not talking about Buhari of the military era that you can say is well over 30-something years ago. He left office, he was overthrown on
August
25th, 1985. So 40 years ago. We're talking about a man who left office barely 2 years ago. So it is recent history. We are living with the impact of the decisions he took, the actions and inactions of Muhammadu Buhari in office. So this idea of saying that it depends on who is now looking at it, we are all looking at it. We are all living witnesses.
Yeah, but if you look, the political class, it's almost like a copy and paste message that is coming from them. And then when you do a vox pop of ordinary Nigerians,
they're angry.
Yeah, they're very angry.
Yes, but even the political class, they are living a lie. See, something is instructive. Aisha Buhari, Buhari's widow, said Buhari told her, to apologize to Nigerians. Look, something must be going on in the man's mind for him to have left that instruction before he died. The truth of the matter is that all the fault lines that have already been there were
exacerbated
by the presidency of Muhammadu Buhari. And look, is it not ironic? It's a shame that Buhari, after 8 years in office as the president, died in
a London hospital.
Even if for no other thing, that says a lot about the so-called legacies. And don't forget, it is also a shame. You know, when General Abdulsalami Abubakar says
I was in the same hospital,
they were admitted in the same hospital. Mamandara, Buhari's nephew, is also in London in a hospital. These are people who have or had all it takes to build enlightened self-interest. Should have told anybody. For somebody of Muhammadu Buhari's caliber that had an existing precondition health condition before he became president, the least he could have done is to have a world-class facility where his health challenges could be attended to. Now we are waiting. We sent Vice President to go and escort the body back home. Benga, have you seen any other country, apart from all these banana republics that litter the landscape of Africa? Nelson Mandela, for crying out loud, died in Johannesburg. Former president of Ghana, Professor, what is his name now?
John Atta Mills.
Atta Mills died in Accra. And Kenneth Kaunda died in Zambia.
Jerry Rawlings died in Ghana.
Jerry Rawlings died in Ghana. There is, look, what these people don't understand, and I've always argued this, anybody who wants to know my opinion about Buhari, I've written and I have said a lot why he was alive. So there's nothing I'm saying today that is new. Mm-hmm. Buhari left Nigeria in a far worse place than he made it in 2015. And that is not a legacy that anybody should be celebrating.
I guess it would depend on the matrix you're using to measure. Because if you look at security, they would argue that under former President Jonathan, Boko Haram held territories. I mean, they hoisted their flags in about 14 local governments. And by the time the Buhari, you look at places like Bama, there was the entire town evacuated. But by the time Buhari handed over to President Tinubu, they didn't hold territory that much. Even though they didn't hold territory in the sense of hoisting their flag.
Before Buhari became president in 2015, because these are places when, at least when the leader of Boko Haram was killed. In fact, I was in Maiduguri for about 2 weeks after his death, and I interviewed everybody in Borno State, from the governor then, sheriff, to almost everybody. I interviewed the traditional ruler, Shehu of Borno. So I did. But when Buhari came into office in 2015, this insecurity was almost located in the northeast. By the time he left office, the whole of Nigeria,
northwest, north central,
the whole of Nigeria, including southeast, including southwest, people were no longer going to their farms in southwest. So anybody who is talking about fighting insecurity, how? Did he even diminish Boko Haram per se? Are they not still in office today? What about the divisions that he created? Buhari on live TV called a significant portion of this country a dot in the cycle. He was the person who went abroad to say 97% voted for him and 5%. I don't know where he got that calculation from. 95 plus 5%, of course, is not 100%. But the NSAS.
We talked about it when we had Femi Adesina. We can talk about NSAS, the Twitter ban. We talk about the cashless policy in 2023, right before the elections. The Sudan, well, Femi Adesina spoke to the Jibril from Sudan rumors, but there's basically a litany, a laundry list of things, depending on who you ask. And looking at some of the economic indicators from his time, inflation steadily grew. We had 2 recessions under the former president. We also had a situation in which government spending started to increase, and now, of course, we know how government spending is as well with loans and all of that. At the end of the day, Ikechukwu, it is a mixed bag. It is what it is. People experience his policies, the policies of the decisions and the policy decisions of the president, I beg your pardon, the former and late President Muhammadu Buhari, impacted Nigerians in a different way. And it is what it is. That's why reactions are as mixed as they are.
I would also say the man has passed, and he's not here to defend himself.
He can't undo anything that's done.
What lessons can we learn from
this? The lessons. But then, let me first of all address the issue of the man is gone, therefore. No. After all, till tomorrow, people are talking about Nasani Abacha. I think it smacks of hypocrisy for the same people who demonize Sani Abacha, for instance, to say, no, don't speak ill of the dead. Even as Christians, till tomorrow, there are characters in the Bible that you don't eulogize. You talk about Judas, he betrayed Jesus Christ. You talk about Jezebel. So, what you do here, and that takes me to the lesson, that those who are in office now should learn a lesson. That, look, this thing does not last forever.
Yes. Power is transient.
What does last forever are the things.
For your legacies.
You do, the legacies you leave behind. Today, President Bola Tinubu is there. If I were him, what will concern me most, how will people remember me tomorrow, particularly when I am no longer in a position
of power.
But these guys get in there and they forget that there is a tomorrow. All of us will die eventually.
And be 6 feet. That's all the space we occupy.
Nobody is going to leave this place alive.
Resurrect now.
Well, even if you resurrect now.
What's it when you are
ascension?
Sent to heaven? Yes.
On the last day.
When the trumpet calls. My biggest fear is one day I wake up and I don't realize the trumpet has called. I'm left with the rest of these people.
Until that day comes. But the reality is that nobody is going to leave this earth alive.
Yes.
All of us are going to die. What will matter after that are the legacies you're going to leave now behind. Today we're talking about Muhammadu Buhari. Look, mixed bag, no mixed bag. Buhari came into office and said he was going to be judged on 3 parameters. Number 1, economy. Number 2, security. And fighting corruption.
Okay, yes. Corruption, yes.
On those 3 fronts, the man failed. In the area of economy, even his successors, who are still members of the same political party, Tinubu continues telling us up to tomorrow that he inherited an economy that was dead, literally.
From his same party member.
The same issue on insecurity. And then when we talk about the corruption, look, there are people who say Buhari as a person was not corrupt. Maybe. But again...
When you allow corruption around you.
Exactly. When you run a government that has been adjudged as arguably one of the most corrupt, at least in this 4th Republic. Then what are you talking about? Here we have the humanitarian ministry. We know all that took place there. Here we had a regime where Minister of Aviation went to Ethiopia.
Borrowed a plane, it,
and came here and said he was launching a Nigeria. Today he's still standing trial.
He's part of the opposition, and the coalition now.
And everywhere you looked at under Muhammadu Buhari, for people doing their own things, amassing wealth.
The CBN governor.
The CBN governor is still standing trial today. These guys were doing ways and means, printing money.
NNPC.
NNPC, and don't forget, Muhammadu Buhari was the Minister of Petroleum. And we had an NNPC that pumped, I think Dangote told us the other day it was $18 billion into turning around and maintaining
of our refineries.
None of them is working till today.
And they're telling us that they may not work.
And they're not telling us that they may not work. Then where did the $18 billion go to? So let us not talk about...
EFCC has summoned for questioning the CFO under Melekari. So he will probably explain where the $18 billion is. And what
but not summon Melekari himself. Okay, Chukwu, let's hold on, because at the end of the day, this is really what's going to be on the front page of the majority of newspapers, and we've only taken the punch. But I do like what Professor Killer has said, is that Buhari is a promise unkept for many Nigerians. He came in on such, public sentiment and public goodwill, and people were willing to take so much for him to get the job done, but it was a promise unkept for many Nigerians. Let's go to the next newspaper we have. There's the Daily Trust coming our way. If we can get that up now, let's take a look at the Daily Trust this morning and see what they have. Again, at the front page, Dawa sets for Buhari's burial as Nigeria mourns. We also have how Lagos LG poll was won and lost. 4 killed, many injured in Kano building collapse. Succession move begins after Awojale's burial. Then we also have residents flee as bandits attack Niger communities. kill 6, abduct 20. Ikechukwu, let's look at how Lagos LG poll was won and lost. We covered that extensively on Saturday. The truth of the matter is people did not come out. There are in some polling units 2, 3, 4, 5. We had a reporter sharing some of the stories that were there as part of the polls. But even if we didn't come out, somebody has been adjudged as the winner. Did people not come out because they thought it was a foregone conclusion, or they didn't come out just because they were not interested? How do you analyze what happened on Saturday?
Both. People didn't come out because they thought it was the point in coming out to vote. The bigger implication, which for me is even more fundamental, is that this signposts what is going to happen in 2027. The truth of the matter is a lot of people are losing confidence in our electoral processes because they don't believe that it can give us free and fair elections. So why bother yourself going out there to queue when ab initio you know that the results are not going to count? And again, look, election is a process. The voting perhaps is the last stage. There is what is called primary election, where the candidates of the political parties emerge, those who are going to carry the flag of the different political parties. Now, when even in the process of bringing out those who are going to contest, all of them are imposed. So there's no internal democracy, as they say. Not as they say, that's the reality. So when people are imposed, then why do you go there and vote? Going out there and voting means that you are also legitimizing an illegal process that is not, at the end of the day. Look, grassroots, local government election is a grassroots thing, which ought to draw out people more, because these are people you know, councillors, chairmen, that people stayed away in their homes and left them playing football on the road, playing football, and left them to do their things. If we are a country given to introspection, we should be worried. We should be worried. We should be asking where. But of course, you see all of them ululating. The Lagos State governor said it is free, fair, and all that. The LASEC chairperson, as expected, said it is the best thing that has happened since sliced bread. And you ask yourself, because when people are telling you be hopeful, it's going to get better, elections continue getting worse in Nigeria rather than getting But there's a bill, there's a silver lining somewhere. There's a bill in the House of Representatives now that has passed its second reading. And maybe it's as a result of this, because we've seen a pattern. In PDP states, there's a clean sweep. In Labour Party states, there's a clean sweep of local government elections. So they think, that this is just a farce. Now, the National Assembly is proposing a separate independent electoral commission away from INEC to deal with local government elections pan-Nigeria.
How much money do we have as a country?
Across the country. To maybe give it a real level of independence. A facelift. Instead of leaving it to state electoral commissions. Benga, we all live a lie in this country. And we know what we can't just leave it like this. We all At least they're trying to do something.
2027 is coming.
We all know what the issues are. Before 2023 elections, there was an amendment to the Electoral Act. Before 2029, there was also an amendment which Buhari unfortunately refused to sign because he was going to be a participant in that election. Even the one that the Electoral Act of 2022, to what extent were they all the articles there implemented? Here was chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, who came on air to tell us that, look, that the IRF and the electronic transmission of votes is the game changer. Is the game changer. That is going to be real time, and that Nigerians will be saying it. At the end of the day, what happened? There was a glitch.
And then he came back and said, just because it's there doesn't mean that INEC reserves the right to use it as they will. So I don't want to be that person, but if we're seeing patterns from 2019, 2023, local government elections, off-cycle state elections, these off-cycle elections have been telling us a lot. And people are sitting at home. What do we expect to make difference between now and 2027? Because whether you like it or not, even if it's one person that votes, and that person votes in this direction, that vote is recorded for that person. Someone must be declared winner.
Yes.
I have said in my column that Ikechukwu Amechi, will never go near any
voting
Napoleon booth
until you see
again in this country, because all these shenanigans can't.
But when someone like you says this, what do we expect to hear from the we're not average Nigerians, Ikechukwu. We're not. So when someone like you says this, what do we expect to hear from average Nigerians? What do we expect their body language towards elections and voting and even governance to be? Because elections are just the smallest part of democracy. After you elect, you hold accountable. After you elect, you monitor. After you elect, you engage.
Tolu, there is no need going out there, wasting your time under the elements and casting a ballot that won't count.
Are you hopeful, just before we wrap up, because we're out of time, that we could see some sort of reforms before 2027, in the little time we have left?
It is not whether I am hopeful or it's not whether there will be reforms. It is the implementation of those reforms. Where you have an election where people are disenfranchised because of who you are, because of where you come from, then what manner of democracy is that? And it is not getting any better, it is getting worse. So,
a sad way to end today's show, but it's a reality check and a reflection. Peter, reflection on the state of matters in the country. Thank you so much, Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi, as always, for joining us on the newspaper front pages.
Thank you very much.
I guess that's it on today's edition of Breakfast Central. Tolu, I don't think you should stand up.
Jasiri starts at 10. I'll see you on Jasiri.
We'll flip the table around and then we'll continue. Thank you for standing in for Olive and Joe. It was a pleasure having you. See you guys tomorrow. Jasiri is up next. Bye-bye.